The villain of the lost symbol, Moloch, is a giant who's covered himself with tattoos he thinks will give him mystical powers. A double-headed phoenix, the pillars from the Temple of Solomon, a snake consuming itself. You might think the symbols come from Moloch's twisted mind. They come instead from a mysterious book called The Secret Teachings of All Ages, a favorite of Moloch's creator, Dan Brown.
And that really is a core book for a lot of what I research and a lot of what I believe.
The Secret Teachings was written in the 1920s by a Canadian-American named Manly P. Hall, who founded the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles. It carries on his work, studying the wisdom of the ancients. Its director is Obadiah Harris.
The ancient mysteries are about the divination of man, how it is that you can become more fully human and achieve a level of consciousness beyond the reasoning mind.
Moloch believes the Freemasons have guarded the ancient mysteries for centuries. He forces Robert Langdon to race through Washington, trying to decode messages the Masons engraved on a stone pyramid, messages Moloch is convinced will lead him to the lost symbol of the ancient mysteries and to unspeakable power.
And you draw a pretty straight line from the ancient mysteries to the Freemasons and to another subject that we haven't quite discussed yet. Is it an imaginary line or is it a real line?
No, it's an absolutely a real line. The ancient mysteries deal in the concept of the power of the human mind. The Masons celebrate mankind and the power of the human mind. In fact, in the second-degree ritual, there's actually a line where they say, "Here you will learn the mysteries of human science."
There's a form of human science that Moloch wants to hijack for his own ends. It sounds like fiction, but it's not.
Noetic science really is the reason this book took me so long to write. I'm kind of a skeptic, and I hear about these experiments that are being done that categorically and scientifically prove that the human mind has power over matter.
The physical world.
Power over the physical world.
The term noetic derives from the Greek word for mind. Noetic scientists study whether age-old ideas like faith healing, ESP, mind over matter, actually have scientific basis. In Dan Brown's novel, there's a secret lab at the Smithsonian doing cutting-edge research to prove the human mind has such power. Moloch breaks in, murders one scientist, and tries to kidnap another. The secret lab is fiction, but there's a real one similar to it in Petaluma, California's Institute of Noetic Sciences. Its director is Marilyn Schlitz.
I would say noetic is equivalent to intuition, that sense of feeling that isn't rational. I just have a gut feeling about something. The science part of it is really bringing that lens of discernment, of rigor, of critical thinking to what is a non-rational process.
Schlitz showed us an experiment in which one subject, using her thoughts alone, tries to alter the vital signs of a second subject in a sealed room.
Slightly more beautiful.
Another experiment seeks to determine if people, again through thought alone, can affect the formation of ice crystals. A third experiment involves machines called random event generators, which noetic researchers have placed on almost every continent.
They are essentially electronic coin flippers. So if you imagine flipping a coin 100 times, you would expect, based on a normal probability distribution, that you'd get an equal number of heads and tails.
In some experiments, she says, human thought alone has affected these machines, changing the ratio of heads to tails.
And it's the power of the human mind, the power of group thought, the power of group focus?
I don't know. But
how can this be so central to the book if we don't know? I mean, it's a very difficult concept to get your arms around. And there are some, let's be honest, who think it's a hoax.
Sure.
You don't have to look far to find them. Ray Hyman, a former professor of psychology at the University of Oregon, has made a mission of exposing what he considers scientific fraud.
It's starting to bend. It's bending.
And noetic science is on his hit list.
Noetic science is not the science that we know of as physics and chemistry and even psychology. There's very little science there as far as I'm concerned.
Nevertheless, the Institute of Noetic Sciences has received a grant from the federal government to study distance healing, what you might call prayer.
I spent a lot of time researching noetic science and really had to get to the point where I realized, you know what? The world is a stranger place than we thought. And the human mind really does have the ability to affect matter.
He says his new belief led to an old fear.
Every single scientific breakthrough in human development, whether it was fire or nuclear power, has been turned into a weapon. My fear is that we start to learn how to use our minds, and that our innate dark sides will use it for evil.
Which, of course, is exactly Moloch's goal, one he's willing to kidnap, torture, and kill for.
And what you set up in the book is this, the people who think about, boy, we can change the world in a positive way. Your villain in this book, Moloch, says, wait a minute, I don't want that renaissance.
Right.
I want this to be a source of evil.
Moloch is the reminder that with knowledge comes responsibility.
It may sound heavy for a beach read, but Brown doesn't seem worried.
I think my books contain a lot of meat, but it tastes like dessert somehow.
He manages that by folding the big ideas into a book-length, high-speed chase, all the while revealing the secrets of a city that seems familiar.
No shadows anywhere. The room.
What other secrets does Washington hold? Brown himself will show us next.